The easiest way to live a happy and content life is to make your life more boring. You might be thinking, okay, I will be bored all day. No, 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 no. Let me explain. Don't draw your conclusions already. Let me explain. The reason we find our lives boring and always look for things that are fun, in quotes, fun, things like social media, things like drugs, alcohol, and movies, TV shows, things like that, we run to them for fun because our life by nature is not fun. Why is it not fun? Is the question we should ask, because on this channel we don't treat symptoms, we treat the source. Why you end up going to these comfort things, these comfort food, these TV shows and all those things is because of an underlying problem which you haven't addressed yet, which is the fact that your life by itself is not fun. So the symptom of that is your scrolling addiction, is your porn addiction, is your movie addictions. And when you try to get rid of these addictions, you find it difficult because you're trying to treat the symptoms and you're not trying to address the source of the problem. When you keep treating the symptoms and ignore the source, you just become more tolerant to these treatments of symptoms and the symptoms become worse. So your addiction goes worse as you try harder to quit these addictions because they're just symptoms of an underlying problem. So let's look at the underlying problem. The why is your life not fun? The previous video I've talked about the difference between pleasure and happiness. Happiness, contentment, satisfaction, purpose, all those things would come under that. And the difference is that the pleasure is a short-term thing and contentment and happiness are long-term things. So when you chase pleasure, you often get the pleasure, but when the pleasure goes away, even though the pleasure raises your life like this, it dips it back when it's not present. The thing about happiness and contentment is that these things are slow, these things are quiet, these things are peaceful, and the high you get from the happiness, the contentment might not be that high as compared to pleasure, but it is more sustainable. It stays, it gives you the peace, it gives you the feeling that okay, I'm living a good life. The difference between someone chasing pleasure and the difference between someone chasing happiness is that you walk by the kitchen counter and you drop something, and the guy who's chasing pleasure will be frustrated because he's been having these ups and downs of these dopamine levels and all. I'm not going to go into the scientific levels, but the thing is, he's having happiness, then he's having absence of it. He's having pleasure, basically. He thinks it is happiness, but the guy who's having happiness, he's just trying to live a life in which it is much more peaceful. He just don't have to think about pleasure and everything. He's just much more calm. He drops something, he's not that worried. Okay, sure, I have to clean up. But this guy, he's furious, he's frustrated because that's the way he lives it in. How do you live a happier life? I told you that it is by living a much more boring life. Boring doesn't mean it's boring for you. The way I live, for my friends who live next door, they think that I'm living a very boring life. They think that I should be depressed. But honestly, I'm much more happy because I'm not indulging in a lot of the things that they are, and they call it fun and a happy life. They stay up late, they watch movies, and they do all this stuff that I consider unhealthy. And they get that hike of pleasure, they get that hike of dopamine, which I don't get that much. But when they wake up in the morning, they're probably dreadful because they didn't sleep that well. Because I think that I need to live a healthier life and that I would be happier that way, I choose to not stay up late, and sometimes I have to sacrifice those happy or fun moments so that I can live a healthier life. And their baseline of happiness or life basically is lower, but my baseline is higher. So I don't get much hikes, but on a moderate, on a normal day, even on a bad day, I'm much better off. And I'm much quiet, I'm much more silent, I do less things, I try to sleep more, I try to read, I try to eat healthier, I try to eat less junk food. For them, it seems very much boring life. I was trying to explain this to them, some of them who understands, the others don't really care, but some of them who wants to understand it, they're like, why do you live a boring life? And I can't, like, unless they live this life, I can't explain to them that I'm much happier this way. My phone is running out of charge. I think I'm gonna end this video here, but the point of it is to minimize the things that you do in life and maintain a moderate level of happiness and all those things, and you'll have a much better time, man.